Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is your boy Rodimus Prime. I wanted to go on ahead and give my 2 cents on Unis 2. The UNI Celes is going to get ready to come out in a few days. I originally had this docked at the time of when the beta first finished, but I didn't get a chance to finish the rest of my thoughts at that time, so I went on ahead and I had to finish them this week. And I can go ahead and I can present it to you now while I have time. So thanks, and just get ready to sit and tune in. Alright, so with Uni done, I took my time to sit and revise how I wanted to document my experiences through the video game, both through the beta and maybe even the real game, depending upon how cheap it is at some point in order to actually pick it up, which is going to be a long time coming. Because all the Unis games so far, all of them aren't really like the most cost-effective games in the bunch. They're on sale now because of the newest game that's coming out that's probably going to take their place as being the like undernight experience. Which I guess maybe you can add that to your collection, but I don't know. I want to say though that this was my first time. This is my very first time delving into a Uni gameplay entry. So my thoughts are generally subject to change. Should I actually invest in the game more so on the 2024 release? A deeper dive into Uni norms would probably be expected at that time. I only knew but so much about like how the general mechanics for undernight games work. I still am a little green in that area because there's more to it about meter management and combo optimization, and then the structure of how combos work and your neutral, and then the character mechanics and their play styles. Some of them are stereotypical play styles, as I would expect. Others, I have no idea how to actually approach the play style. I will say though, inviting as Uni 2 looks visually with refreshing notes, like if you're not into anime fighting games, it might be tough to see the allure to play more outside of a set sitting or a casual sitting, or just friendly sets. I get the feeling that it does teach you a lot about good fundamentals for 2D fighters and just doing general 2D fighter stuff, which is what you want as an anime fighter enthusiast or an anime fighting game player. The key to improvement is that you keep playing and learning with people that you trust and that can trust in you. Don't play with randoms because you don't really learn anything outside of just growing awareness for what to punish on when, but you don't actually gain constructive building block fundamentals that you need to be better at the game in the earliest points of the video game. Game-wise, Undernight, I feel, is a decent introduction to one side of a strong anime fighting game experience in the fundamental POV that French Bread created rather nicely, in my opinion. French Bread is from the same people that also made the Melty Blood type Lumina. This newer title entry coming, it resumes his legacy as the third installment. Game-wise, I'm happy that you can actually play Unist as like a standalone journey. Context with story or character background does imply that you learn or delve into its past predecessing titles, like the EX Late, the EX Late ES, and then Uniclur, and all the stuff before Celes. So you can play this game as a standalone, not knowing anything about the franchise, or you can delve into the franchise and still be content with what you know versus what you're about to learn. Honestly, beginner friendly. I feel that training mode does help a lot. Undernight is different, very different from other fighting games. This is very different from something like a Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear or Dragon Ball. Kind of different from Melty Blood also. Like it's very different, but it's not hard. I want to make that clear. It's different, but it's not really hard. It has a free and fun gameplay that doesn't really require much skill to enjoy or embrace. It has a good story mode to it, I feel, that is surprisingly good for as convoluted as it felt at first, but it's very good. But it does have issues with its story, such as like with Expedition, general translation of the plot, and the action does feel lacking at times. If you're trying to go by story wise, then it feels like it is lacking sometimes, but not all the time, to where it's an issue in the engagement department. It's an easy system to understand for the most part. Executing a solid combo though is tough since it involves memorizing long button sequences. Like even if it seems easy to execute in training, doing it during a live match, which live matches are more fast paced, proves to be the actual challenge, because you can do a combo dozens and dozens of times at your set pace, but doing it at the pace of the match, you drop it every single time and you don't get the reward factor out of it, or you feel like you don't get the reward factor out of it at first. And there's even beginner friendly characters, some of which I actually identified right away through the beta. I'm pretty sure they'll still stay the same going into the base game, because the general presentation of the character mechanic wouldn't change their trope or their playstyle from game to game as the game ages. It's still going to be the same characters with eventually the same toolkit. So at the moment, I would have said what Wagner, Akatsuki, Mika, Hilda, Gordo, Byakuya, Nanase, and Lene are like beginner friendly starter characters. Echidnu, I believe, is also a starter friendly character. I feel I give him the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't look beginner friendly, but when you go to play around with them, he actually is. So I'd say Echidnu is also one I can put in there. Hyde is debatable on easy handling, depending on how you want to try and do the double quarter circle forward Rekka follow ups, the weird hit confirms and dead angles, or just how technical you want to look at his combo structure. And then what Yuzuriha, Batista, Seth, and Carmine, I believe scale to the harder characters in the video game experience. They're the harder characters to utilize. Like if you master a beginner friendly character, in my opinion, you're set. If you're set amidst a lot of the pure fundamentals versus the technical implications and technical fundamentals of the gameplay. You want to have a smooth ride delving into the gameplay at first. You don't want to already see the skill ceiling, which may be a deal breaker for a lot of people. This game series has some of the best tutorials in my opinion, but some of the characters themselves are just hard to get into. Like even if a character is beginner friendly or even tricky to play or hard or whatever it is that you're actually going to be appealed to play or want to play as, the character themselves can be hard to get into, because characters are hard to get into. That's another one of the layers of possibly a character crisis, despite not picking the character that you want versus the character you want, but it doesn't have the feel. It doesn't feel right. That's always the hard part in trying to balance out a good character on the inside versus a good character on the outside. Lastly, Rollback. Don't get me wrong, Rollback is nice, but while that's great, it doesn't save the matches that much. It really doesn't save the matches. A needed inclusion, but some of the people in the community bank on Rollback too damn much, and that shit needs to stop because it's not that important. If you had shitty or stuttering connections going into a match, it'll still be the same as time goes, no matter how you want to sugarcoat it. One of you guys just have ass connections and you don't want to admit it, or you're just on a shitty internet service. which if it's understood between you and your friend, that's fine. But if it's online, it's going to be a horrible experience for both people. It's the other person you're playing that's allowing the matches to resume at that point for matchup points or adaptive niceties, or it's not that big of an issue because they fought you enough times and so they're aware of your net. It's not that big of a problem. Online, it can be a problem. Overall, Uni 2 looks like another great starter into 2D fighterhood, even though it's hard amidst its share of hurdles or steep learning curves that can, and probably in most cases do, push away a casual goer to the video game experience. It has the overall foundation concepts laid down very nicely. Talking with friendly players, it tunes into the game that can help you set your path with an easy embark and good investment of time to the video game. But again, my opinion is just subject to change or expand. Thus, a follow. I mean, this is generally the whole follow-up synopsis of it that I was originally doing when I wrote it out that week between Twitter and Instagram. I want to do a follow-up, but I can do it all in one sitting, and that's pretty much this thing. If you guys want to see those links to what it is I had there, those are also down in the comments section below. But I just don't know about buying this as a full $60, $70 video game, nor do I see it being any less costly, which also is a deal breaker in most cases, wanting to try and delve into a new video game experience and you can't afford it. Because, I don't know, I mean, French Bread is a niche game company, and that's fine. They make good video games that do have to sell. So the money is going to vary from time to time in terms of what you're paying for versus the product, sales, and then pending DLC, if any. How much are you investing in your DLC? Are you doing a pass? Are you making characters consistently? Are you trying to add a small roster into the video game to make it an ample sized roster in full? There's a lot of different angles that goes in. I don't know. It just feels like it's a huge commitment. Because if you do pay for the game in full, which I'm sure people and dozens of people I know and that I've hosted have honestly probably bought that already between the Blaze Blue, the Guilty Gear, and the Melty Blood communities. They probably already bought that new game. My problem is that it's a commitment in video games. So if you do pay for the game, you have to be in a position to like it or already want it. Because otherwise that's just a whole fortune that you're pissing down the drain for a video game you may not like or care about after the hype dies down. That's the key thing, because the hype is what's driving the sales for this game, not the marketing, when it needs to be the marketing, and I'm going to tell you why it needs to be the marketing. But again, I'm going to tell you why it needs to be the marketing, because the way that this is targeted at, it's coming out at the same time as Tekken 8, damn near the same time. That's 2 days before Tekken 8 gets here. That's not good. That's really not good in terms of marketing, because it's a lesser known game franchise versus one of the biggest game franchises in the pool of fighting game in the genre. That's not a good matchup. Tekken could crush easily UNIST in terms of marketing and how much that both of them have been marketing, because how many, between all the stuff that's coming up here going into Frosties 2024, how many people can say that they've seen that many UNIST commercials and or UNIST promoting versus Tekken, and each of these things with Tekken drops with characters and updates on the mechanics and podcasts, whereas UNIST has probably had maybe 1 or 2 podcasts, but they haven't really talked about the newer characters that have come into the video game. There hasn't been that much talk about the mechanic changes, which, I mean, there probably wasn't a lot to really shake a stick at, but still, I mean, it would have been a nice inclusion to speak briefly or frankly on some of the changes that have this UNIS stand out from the rest in the line of UNIS video games. But in my opinion, the marketing was bold to place this days apart from Tekken's release date, Tekken 8. Well, I believe there's space and enough community support for both to share the same stage coming into the premieres. I just believe that there is going to be a struggle bus that will ensue because of the niche status of the game compared to the popular status of the other game. Unis is still that type of game that's not based on universally popular themes or norms, or themes more mainstream titles might use or apply, like the Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear or Dragon Ball, like I previously aforementioned. Like, niche games are still made and targeted and designed to appeal to the specific type of audience, and it always succeeds doing this, knowing it's a smaller base of marketing compared to a bigger title's bigger marketing range and the varying results that go there. It's also less pressure for the game to perform, so it succeeds better, in my opinion. The game having that status isn't a bad thing at all. Like, as much as the community doesn't feel that UNI or the whole franchise is niche or a niche entry because of the lineage of the video game, that's fine, but it still is, by standard and design, as a standout to be better than most in the category. I feel, though, in terms of the status of niche, I feel that Undernight is the best presentation of that subsection of video games. It's like the biggest of the lesser known, which is why it teeters on being popular when convenient and then forgotten about when inconvenient when faced with the bigger heavy hitters. So between Melty Blood and Eunice, I can see Eunice being on a higher totem than Melty Blood, respectfully speaking, even though both are very good titles. But this is where you're at in the game's general bloodline, regardless of it being popular. But not popular as a whole, it's just popular right now. Honestly, like, the online being corrected for next generation furthers the sentiment of enjoyment that helps the engagement process with the video game, so it becomes more of a known, lesser known video game entry. Fun is the benchmark for any game to catch on and becomes popular with lots of people. Like, niche games like these start to gain traction because they have engaging characters or fun gameplay or cool sound or a lot of eye-catching graphics. And they make gamers feel good. You feel really good playing these games, and you feel like you got your money's worth for what you bought. Without these factors in place, honestly, any niche game will find itself very hard to gain an audience or to keep an audience. They also offer a different experience. Like, we all know, like, how enjoyable standard games can be it either other fighting games that are your standard games or puzzle games or first-person shooter-based games. But playing the same type of game with the same feel or vibe or theme does get boring. Niche games help solve this issue by giving players a new experience to enjoy with new themes or storylines to explore. In addition, they give developers the freedom to just unleash more creativity because you're not worrying about making the game appeal on a mainstream assessment, or you're locked in by a bigger factor or a bigger contract or something where they're just going to milk you for the finer things about your product rather than just the product as a whole and do better that way. You want the moneymaker up front rather than have it collectively with everything else, even though it doesn't look like it's going to make money. It makes money as a whole because it's the product. But honestly, as a result, niche games just offer more creative gameplay and features which do help them catch on. Because it's important to remember that the quality of a game is not determined by its popularity or status. A game can be great regardless of its genre or the target audience, right? Ultimately, like, the quality of a game depends on a variety of factors for its gameplay mechanics, the story, the graphics, and sound design. It's up to the individual themselves to decide what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy about the product. But that's pretty much my 2 cents on it. I just wish that the marketing outline was better for the video game, so that way it has a chance to really have its own little patch of spotlight for a good amount of time before getting sidetracked or sideswiped by a Tekken 8 that's literally like right behind it. That's just a hell of a lot of pressure on a small company to try to make it do what it do. I wish them the best of luck. I feel the community will still be inviting of both entries no matter what happens, and we just pan it out and see how this goes, right? Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. You guys have a good one ahead out there. Feel free to tune into the content, leave a like, follow, subscribe. Any thoughts down below, leave them. I'd be happy to read them all. You guys take care. Until all are one.